Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing really, really well today. I'm Michelle Legaly. I am the creator of the Empaths and Sensitives Facebook group, Inner Work Life Coach Certification, and the Business Academy. And I want to welcome all of you. I took a several weeks off to kind of reassess what I'm doing in the world, but I am back every single Tuesday doing a Facebook Live, and we're streaming into YouTube at the same time. But I really did need to take a few weeks, about a month off, where I was like, what am I really doing? Do people really want to hear about this? What in the heck am I doing in the world? So I feel like I'm coming back refreshed and more convinced of and more passionate about wanting to help you. So every single week, I think since 2017, I could be wrong, but I've been coming on doing some type of tool, tip, training, inspiration. It used to be in the area of like intuitive work, because that's where I really started. And then I didn't love intuitive work after a while because people were coming to me like they wanted a magic pill. And I could tell I wasn't empowering people to like live their lives. So I started to step out of that back in the day, and I learned about life coaching. And then I started to weave intuitive work with life coaching. And then I started to teach intuitive life coaching. And even that has evolved into what I call inner work life coaching. I love the intuitive world. I absolutely love it. But I'm most passionate about helping people really see that it's subconscious work. What they think, what they feel, the emotions, the patterns, the subconscious drivers are really driving the bus of our life, our behavior, how we see the world, how we perceive the world. That is what I'm most passionate about. There is a lot of intuitive work in that, but it doesn't have to be intuitive. Okay, all that to say, I want to say, thanks for having me back, or I'm so glad to be back. And today I want to talk about how to love negative emotions. How to love negative emotions. And this comes from my work with some of my students for the last, I want to say, month. We've been meeting weekly, and we've kind of come up with these things together. And I want to share them because we created them together. I've been applying them to my life. And if they work in my life, I usually share them. So I'm sharing them with you today. If you're here with me live, say hello in the comments. I would love to say hello back to you. Sometimes name, if you let this thing I call this thing I use StreamYard to let me see your name. If you don't want to do that, it's okay. It just comes up as Facebook user. Say hi in the chat. Somebody's saying hi right now, so thank you. If you are catching the replay, put hashtag replay. I'd love to see that. I can even see the comments from YouTube at the same time. I don't know how it happens, but I can see them. Okay, how to love negative emotions. I have two mindset things, and then I want to take you through the process. So, emotions are just emotions, right? We judge them as positive or negative, right? So that's mindset number one. An emotion and a feeling is just an emotion and a feeling until we give it meaning. That's it. Isn't that crazy? Mindset number two, I guess. We are all human, and we are all going to feel all of the emotions. The ones we decide are negative and the ones we decide are positive. We are all going to feel all of them in our lifetime. It's just part of the agreement we had when we came to Earth. So just knowing that we are going to feel it all, doesn't it kind of relax you? You were meant to feel and experience all of it. That was part of the agreement That's the part of the agreement that we agreed to when we came here to Earth. That's how I think of it. And when I think about I agreed to feel it all, and I'm capable of feeling it all, and I have the tools and equipment to feel it all and process it all and still be okay, when I sit in that, I have a lot more confidence and openness to just being. Okay, last piece of the mindset you might already know this. It took me a long time to discover this, and I'm still discovering it. The resistance to feeling what we would deem a negative emotion is where most of the suffering lies. So I learned this honestly not that long ago. So sometimes I have felt negative emotions. I have felt emotions that I'm resisting, and me resisting it, I realized caused the suffering. As soon as I woke up to that truth and just sat in the feeling of the thing I was calling a negative emotion, when I released the resistance, there wasn't much left to it. I was able to process it. I was able to just feel it. And yeah, sometimes feeling it, it really does feel like it like goes up to a head, like I can feel it, and it hits a strong point of feeling it, and then it goes down. It reminds me of the days I used to have panic attacks. I would feel it, and it would hit a high point, like, and then it would start to come down. Almost feels like I'm giving you lots of weird examples. You know, when you're sick and you have a fever and it'll climb up, and hit the highest point, and then it'll start to come down? It's the same thing. And the more we can release the resistance to feeling what we deem as a negative emotion and go through this peak and then let it come down, that is us processing it. The more we resist, I think that causes a lot of stress in the human body and the human emotions and the human mental, emotional, physical bodies. And it can cause a lot of dis-ease. Okay? Those are all mindset shifts that I want to take you through. Now I want to take you through a process that we created. I think it has about 3 or 4 pieces. It has been so interesting to do this. Okay, step number 1. You're going to notice that you have a negative emotion. This works really well with things that come up a lot. Like the thing I'm going to share with you, mine is it's more of a thought or a pattern I have. So what I'm going to explain to you, I know this is it's complicated. It's the first time I've tried to explain it to people, but and maybe I'll try again next week, and then I'll do even better. We have thoughts, feelings, emotions, beliefs. Let's just stop with those things. And all of those things, many of those things we just run on autopilot. They're patterns based on our childhood, what we agreed to in our childhood. Someone else gave them to us. And that works for us for a really long time to stay in our tribe and to our family and survive it. But as we become adults and want to be and do things in the world, a lot of those things we learned when we were younger become limits to us growing to our greatest versions of ourselves. They actually limit us. Does that make sense? So I have this one in my own life that I have experiences when I was young that I was a poor speller. And I went to the van as a kid. I got made fun of as a kid. I got a lot of poor marks on my report card as a kid. So this poor speller thing, I've been living with it for a long time. Then I'm an adult, wanting to go to college, wanting to be online, wanting to be a coach, all these things as an adult I want to do. And my poor spelling pattern keeps popping up in my life. And the emotions attached to it, like embarrassed, not good enough, want to stay small and hide so nobody sees that I'm a poor speller. All that kept showing up in my life. Okay? So this thing from my childhood, can you see how it was stopping me from just going out in the world and being and doing what I'm supposed to do in the world? Do you have things like that in your life too? Yes or no? Type it in the chat. Hi, Don. Hi, Teresa. Thanks for being here. Okay, so step one, I want you to think of an emotion that we're calling negative, or a thought that you have a lot that causes negative emotions or feelings inside of you. And I want you to see it. And I want you to ask yourself this: what is my relationship with this feeling, this emotion, or this thought? What is my relationship with it? Somebody do me a favor if you can and type that in the chat. So step one is notice the emotion, the thought, or the feeling. Step two, what is my relationship with it? So I'm going to stop right there and give you my example. When I finally looked at I'm a poor speller and embarrassed and judged and wanting to stay small, I noticed that that was my relationship with it. I had a lot of yucky feelings around it. That was the first thing I did. The next thing is to ask yourself, is my relationship with this thing serving me today? Is it serving me today? Is it keeping me small? Is it keeping me stuck? Or is it inspiring me to go do and be what I'm called to do in the world? And my poor spelling thing was keeping me small and stuck. I recognized that it was keeping me small and stuck and wanting to stay hidden. Okay, next step. If you like the relationship you have with this thing that we're calling a negative emotion or a negative thought, if you like the relationship, you're done with the work. You get to keep it. Like if you like it, you're going to keep it. There's nothing you need to do. If you don't like the relationship, if you don't like if it's keeping you stuck and you don't like it, I want you to decide right now that you can change it. Does that make sense? So I'm going to use my own example again. When I was looking at my poor spelling pattern and I asked myself, do I like this relationship? I said, no, this thing is slowing me down in life. I can't fix it. I can't even become a good speller. So what I decided to do was to change it. I decided to change the meaning of it. And what I did, since I couldn't change to be a great speller, because I tried for many years, it's just the way I'm wired. Since I couldn't change that, I decided to change the meaning. When Michelle, you're a poor speller came up again for me, and it still does, I gave it a new meaning. And the meaning I gave mine was, oh, you're back again? I must be up-leveling my life if you're showing up. If you're showing up, I must be wanting to do something big in the world, because you only show up because your job is to try to keep me small and safe. So as soon as I see it pop up, as soon as I feel it and think it, I just love it. I just go, you're back again? Oh my gosh, that's amazing. If you're here, I must be doing big things in the world. And I just invite it to come with me. So I'll give you an example. When I started to when I was moving into life coaching and writing emails and making offers to coach people, Michelle, you're a poor speller came up all the time. And I would go like this, oh, you're showing up again? That's amazing. This thing I want to do, it must be a big thing. So I would just invite it to come with me and write a poor spelled email. Or I would just say, it's okay. We're going to mess up our words. It's okay. Come with me. We're going to do this together. So do you see how I was not resisting it? I couldn't seem to change it, but I just learned how to love it and bring it along to the next thing I was doing. Could you do that with your what we call negative emotions? Could you just love it and decide if you want to keep the relationship as it is, or if you want to change it and say, I want you to have new meaning for me. I'll give you another one. Judgment would come up a lot for me. The feeling of judgment, the feeling of me afraid to be judged. And I even noticed, like, this is all unconscious, how much I was judging other people. Again, no one would know this was happening except me. and no one knows what's going on inside of you except you. So when I started to notice inside of me judgment coming up, I wanted to resist it and like, no, 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 that's not, I don't have that. I don't have that. Right. But no, I let it come up. I let it come up. And I said to myself, what's my relationship with judgment? And I looked at what my relationship was. I didn't like it. I didn't even want to believe I was that kind of person who was actually doing that. But I was willing to look at it and be okay with it because all humans have it all, but not all humans are willing to look. We don't want to see that some of us, the stuff, the truths about ourselves. But let's be humans who are willing to look because we have it all anyway. So let's look at what's coming up. So I was willing to look at judgment and go, okay, what do I want my relationship with judgment to be now? And I said, I want judgment when it shows up in my life. I want it to be the reminder that I can choose acceptance. I can choose acceptance for myself. I can choose acceptance for everybody else. So now when judgment comes up and I feel it and notice it, I go, oh, judgment's here. It's here to remind me to build the acceptance muscle. That's all it's doing now. And I have a moment where I can go, thank you, judgment, thank you. And then I switch the other side of the coin of judgment is acceptance. And I just flip the coin and I go, oh, there you are, acceptance. And I give myself a minute to go, I love and accept myself. And then I think about my family and whoever else. And I just pull them up one by one and I go, and I love and accept you. I love and accept you. I would never have been given the opportunity to practice acceptance if judgment didn't show up. And that's how I learned to love judgment. This is my first time trying to teach this. Are you getting what I'm trying to say at all? Put yes or no in the chat. Type it in the chat. Give me some feedback. I think next week, Tuesday, when I do a Facebook Live again, I'm going to do the exact same teaching because I know I can do it better if I keep practicing. Okay, somebody said being intuitive and being made small and questioned, it's a confidence crusher of inner wholeness. I can totally relate to what you're saying. I literally have been there, done that. I am with you. And what do you think about it's just a matter of you doing the inner work? And I can explain more about the inner work. What if this is an inside job? I understand the past circumstances created it today, but what if we get to the point that the past circumstances and today's circumstances have nothing to do with us healing ourselves and becoming who we're meant to be in the world? Because we always have us. We have control of us. We don't have control of the outer circumstances. Isn't that exciting? Let the world do whatever the world's going to do, and we're going to work on us and do what we're called to do in the world. That's the most empowering, confident thing I can say to you. We have ourselves, and that's all we need to create inner wholeness. If we, in our past life, meaning any time before today, that we let circumstances crush our confidence, me too. And today we're learning it doesn't have to be that way. Okay. Somebody else said yes. Somebody else said yes. And they said, how do you deal with unfairness in the judgment? Oh, that's so good. I might need more details from you, but just give me a second to see if I can get to what you're trying to say. How do you deal with the unfairness in the judgment? The unfairness in the judgment belongs to you. You're the one holding the You're the one that sees the unfairness in the judgment. And that is just a layer for you to heal. That's it. What if you learned how to feel? What if you learned how to process what you are perceiving as unfairness and the judgment, and you were able to release the unfairness and the judgment? Do you see how that's just a layer? And I don't know what you're going to tell me what you think of that is number one. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are going to say to me, Michelle, but it was unfair. Let me show you what actually happened. And even you, Michelle, would say it's unfair. And I agree. The circumstances were unfair, I bet. But you carrying it as unfairness and never processing it and leaving it to wherever it started, you're doing the unfairness to you at that point. It's like you carried something from a long time ago. It reminds me, I'm going to mess this up. There is like a proverb or a Buddhist story that talks about two monks walking in the wood, two monks who, they have a vow of silence. And one of the two monks are walking through the woods, and they run into a lady standing by the stream, and she's crying. I'm going to botch this. And the monk speaks up, even though he has a vow of silence. And he goes, "Why are you crying?" And she says, "I can't get across the river or the water." And he says, "I'll carry you across the water." He picks her up, carries her across the river, sets her down. And then she says, "Thank you." He says, "You're welcome." And the two monks continue to walk. And remember, they're back to the code or the vow of silence. And the one monk who never spoke that day, you can tell that he's angry and frustrated and upset. And the other monk finally says, "Why are you so upset?" And he says, "We had a vow of silence." And he says, "I know, but you're still carrying it." I'm going to botch this up. "But I dropped her miles ago and you're still carrying it." And I want to say we do the same thing. I really botched that up. If unfairness happened yesterday, a month ago, a year ago, we want to process it. We want to give it new meaning. We want it to be the thing that makes us stronger. And then we want to leave it at the river, right? We cross it and then we want to move on. Does that make sense? Okay, I think I botched that up. I can't wait to do this again next week and do it better. Okay, trying to stay right with yourself, but the outside influence that goes against you. Yes. Okay, so look, I am so passionate about teaching anybody who wants to learn this. What I'm trying to talk about right now has changed my life. I went from being honestly like physically sick, emotionally, energetically. I was I was a sick empath and a sensitive soul. And today I'm like thriving physically, mentally, emotionally, and I help lots of people do the same thing. I want anyone who wants to like go from surviving to thriving and doing what you're called to do in the world. I'm like literally calling to you. And these Facebook Lives is me trying to do that. Okay, trying to stay right with yourself, but outside influences that go against you. So just notice outside influence that goes against you is a pattern that you're participating in. I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm not judging anybody. I just want you to look at it as, could Michelle be right? This is just a pattern. It's no one's fault. No one's broken. It just might be a pattern that you don't prefer anymore. And that you can break that pattern and you get to choose a new pattern if it would serve you. I'm just going to stop right there as a thought for you to think. Okay, perfect response to the inner wholeness. This is the leveling that I think is the foundation for being fully functional in our intuitive wholeness. Thank you, Michelle. I got chills from my toes to my head top. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I know I did not teach this well. I'm coming back next Tuesday at noon and literally trying to teach the same thing. I might come back every Tuesday for a month to talk about the same thing, because I know Look, this is me showing up imperfect, and I want us all to do it because even though it came out not great today, because it's the first time I'm trying to bring this new idea through, it's going to help somebody, and that's enough. If it helped me and one other person, I'll do it. Next week, I'm going to come do it again. I want you all to come back again because we're going to hear it differently. We're going to say it differently, and we're going to embody it even more. And then I bet I come back and say it again. Are you guys up for that? Okay, so next week is going to be How to Love Emotions Part 2. But it's not Part 2. It's just us trying to get it at a deeper level. Okay, thanks so much for being here. I can't wait to see you next Tuesday. Thanks so much. Bye, everybody.